Well, we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. Hello, everybody that's with us via Zoom, and hello, everybody that's with us tonight on our WebEx Connect. It's very nice to have you all with us tonight. I'd like to welcome our guest speaker, Edwin Keh. Edwin is joining us from Hong Kong. I've known Edwin now for, gosh, it seems like forever, but probably it's been about 8 years. I had the privilege of meeting him in Hong Kong, and he has been an advisor to me into this program, the sports product management program here in Portland, Oregon, at the University of Oregon, for all the years that I've known him. He's also, his day job is the CEO of Hong Kong Research Institute of Textiles and Apparel. He's been a guest lecturer at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania for almost 10 years now. He formerly was the Senior Vice President and the Chief Operating Officer at Walmart. He is a TEDx speaker. He spoke in 2015 and 2016. This past year in 2019, he won the Top Innovation Retail Leaders Award in Hong Kong. And I think that also very impressive, he's one of the 100 most influential people in Hong Kong in technology and digital. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce Edwin Keh. He will be presenting for us for around 30 minutes, and then we will be accepting questions. If you are on the WebEx and you'd like to submit a question, please send it to uospm@uoregon.edu. Again, that's uospm@uoregon.edu. And if you're on the Zoom, you can just write your question in the chat. So thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, Edwin Keh.
Thank you, Ellen. It's always a pleasure for me to be with you, especially this program. This program is near and dear to my heart because the first time I met Ellen, this was still an idea that she had, and we met in Hong Kong, and she was telling me about this this cool program that she got going. So I'm very excited to see this in fruition. And every time I talk to her or talk to members of this program, I get very excited. And it's a great story of how you have a great vision, a compelling vision, and then how you execute it and how you grow and scale an idea. I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about where we find ourselves as you know, in the marketplace that we're in the community that we live in, and in the world that we're in, which is that we are living through the first modern pandemic, and what implications that has for us. I'd like to talk a little bit about the implications sort of on different levels, on what it has, what implications that has for us as we plan and think about our career and our future, as we think about business and what roles we should play, and then probably thinking about it in terms of the community that we're in. How will that change or impact our community? And I am by no means an expert in this. I'm way out of my comfort zone. My usual area of expertise is I'm in supply chain operations, and at the research center, I shepherd a group of scientists as they do applied research. A pandemic, I don't think there are many people who call themselves experts in a pandemic, and so it's a new experience for all of us. But I wanted to share with you more sort of my thoughts on this, rather than say have deep, profound insights to this. But one of the things that I thought was important for all of us to consider is to be ready for whatever that comes along from here on out. And one thing we know for sure, and that is that whatever is coming along, it's not going to be the same as what it was. So the chances are good that we won't be going back to life as we know it. So what does that look like? And so, like I said, the areas I want to explore quickly this evening are, what the implications for the marketplace, what types of new opportunities that opens up for all of us as we think about that, and then what does the what is the brave new world that we're going into, and so how, and especially for this group, maybe about how do we serve customers, how do we serve the marketplace as coming out of this, and then what are the characteristics of organizations that will do well in this as a result of this. By the way, don't worry about taking a whole lot of notes. I'm happy to send a copy of this along to Ellen, and so you can request this if you so desire. The framework that I want to first start out with for all of us is this old framework that Jim Collins built years ago when he wrote his big hit book, Good to Great, in which he put forward this idea called the Stockdale Paradox. Right, the Stockdale Paradox is named after Admiral Stockdale, who was taken POW during the Vietnam War, and Jim in the book Good to Great talk about how he managed through that experience, how he persevered when others either went nuts or gave up or just didn't make it. And so the idea here is that on one hand, we really need to be confident and have faith that we will get out of this and we will win, because we have the wherewithal to win. But on the other hand, we have to confront the brutal facts as they stand. And this is why it's called a paradox, because it is on one hand a very, very honest and open look at what the situation that we find ourselves in. But on the other hand, no matter how bad things become, know that we're going to make it. We'll be fine. And so it's neither a pessimist nor an optimist view of the world. The pessimist didn't make it because he's so paralyzed, because it's so I'm in too deep. I can't figure it out. And so he just basically doesn't do anything. The optimist won't confront the facts as they stand, and as a result, make wrong decisions. And the caution here is that we have to look at the ugly facts as they are, and then deal with them. But deal with them in a way so that we will come out of this in one piece. And that's the challenge on a personal level and on a corporate level that all of us have to deal with, whether we're talking about careers, how we deal with the nuts and bolts of our lifestyle, and what have you. That we have to have this framework as we look at the world. So, what is it that we're getting into? What does the new marketplace look like? Ellen mentioned that I'm on faculty at UPenn, and I was recently at an event in which one of the UPenn medical doctors was talking about, figuring out when we're going to get back to some sort of a more normal open marketplace. And around that same day, also Wall Street Journal was gearing up for, it had this article about, hey, it looks like it's going to be longer than we think. And so Professor Ezra Emanuel said, okay, what we should be mentally thinking about is that this is going to take November or later. And when I heard this, I said, okay, mentally, I said, I can deal with that, November or later, that I can count the days. But then he clarified his statement that it's November 2021 or later. And he is saying, and by the way, I'm being an optimist here. And what he's trying to do is that, look, up to this point in time, we've been looking at this as if this is a critical care issue. We're in the emergency room, we're trying to triage the situation. He says, what we need to do is to switch our mindset to a chronic care situation. If this is something that is going to be with us for years and not months, if this is something that we may have to figure out how to live with, like flus and other illnesses that have been around for a long time. How does that change the way we look at what we're doing, and how does that change the strategy of what we're doing? this is not a temporary annoyance now. This is something that we need to have a mindset that maybe this is going to be we're at we're at a tipping point, or we are at a point in which we have an inflection point in which things will just not be the same. Just as 9/11 and then the shoe bomber forever changed the way we travel, this may change the way we live. So what does that look like, right? The up till now, everything has been, don't worry about it. It's a temporary thing. We'll open up again. But there have been some quite shocking things that have happened to us, right? And I don't need to go into the details of this, but we are in a situation in which we have historic unemployment, and we have structural changes to organizations and businesses, which we've not seen before. We've not seen since the Great Depression, and a lot of people don't know what roles they're going to go back to after this, or if the roles that they had before will exist. So you can imagine consumer sentiment in the situation that we find ourselves in. What is interesting is that this is not evenly spread across certainly in the US. You can see the impact is much more significant along the coast, and much more benign in the middle of the country, and also now it's beginning to impact the southern states a lot more. So there are places that are doing better than than others. But overall, what you see is that a lot of old models are being disrupted. A lot of companies that do business in brick and mortar settings, a lot of businesses that have obsolete types of business models have been impacted and are in trouble. So, Brooks Brothers, because nobody wears suits and ties anymore because they're working in their shorts and t-shirts at home. J.C. Penney, because department stores are just legacies from last century. So a lot of these retailers are being disrupted or changed. And so it begs the question, well, what does that mean? How are we going to shop, and what are we going to shop for, and how do we help consumers deal with that? Last year, this is kind of sort of how we consume. And you can see that proportionally, it'll kind of be sort of the same, but it within the segments, it may be quite different. I mean, for example, transportation. Last year, we have to pay a lot for gas and maintenance of our car and things like that. Today, not so much, right? Last year we spent a lot on food, but a big proportion of that was in restaurants and in places outside of our home. Now we'll spend as much in food, but it will be maybe at the grocery store rather than at a restaurant. I heard a paper recently about a scholar trying to explain why toilet paper was an issue. Because if you think about it, early on in the pandemic, demand for toilet paper is about as flat as you can get as a commodity. We don't go to the toilet more because there's a pandemic, right? But the challenge was that we go to the toilet in different places. We used to do that in our offices, and now we do that at home. And it wasn't that we were running out of paper. It was just that the packaging companies couldn't keep up with the shift in demand. So industrial and commercial packaging for toilet paper, for airports and for shopping malls is different from the rolls that we buy at supermarkets. So it's a matter of, it took time for them to adjust the supply chain so that they can shift with the demand. So what I'm saying is that we may be spending the same amount of money, but we may be spending it quite differently. I mean, entertainment, for example, is that we would still be spending a lot of money in entertainment, but instead of going to cinemas, we're spending it on Netflix and what have you. So on and on. So there is going to be there is a lifestyle change. Some of these may come back. I mean, these are activities that in a recent survey says consumers miss the most. And a lot of these are social gatherings of doing things with other people. some of these things will come back, but some of these things will forever change as a result of the pandemic. But for sure, eating out will be a different experience. But some of the and then we were talking earlier before we started, contact sport or team sports. So sporting events will be very different. So some of these we may see some shifts. Some of these will be permanent. How we shop will also be significantly disrupted, right? And a lot of what we see already happening is that we have gone from a lot of physical interaction with products that we shop to virtual interactions. Now, in the categories that some of that we are most interested in, apparel, footwear, and things like that, this is a challenge because whereas you can specify the functionality of a telephone or of a laptop or a camera so that it is you know what you're buying, it is very hard to give virtual specifications to what is the tactile feel of that apparel that you're trying to sell me online. What is the fit like? Because footwear fitting is so inconsistent from brand to brand and from style to style. What is that color going to be like? Whether it's shiny or matte, and do we have enough real estate on our cell phone or on our monitors to accurately depict what that real color is? You know, a shade of red could be a lot pinker or a lot darker than we think it is. And so these make put us at a disadvantage as for the types of things that we want to sell, especially when a lot of it is quite emotional and hard to digitize. So also the whole shopping experience used to be a much more social experience. We go to shopping mall because we enjoy the experience of this dialogue with people, with friends, and it is a leisure experience. And now it has to, if we can do that, it would probably only be with a much smaller group of people that we can feel safe with. A lot of us will probably not go to crowded places, and a lot of us the circles that we socialize in is a lot smaller. So all this to say that in terms of shopping, one of the big challenges is this breakdown of trust. We now have this challenge. How do I trust things that I see online? How do I trust things that are presented to me? How do I make these how do I feel safe when I shop? So naturally there is this shift in how people shop, right? So these numbers, so you can see the big shift in footwear and apparel. That it is something that is now going to become more and more a virtual affair. So specifications like fit, texture, and color are going to be more and more important, because the one challenge about selling online for most online retailers is that the amount of returns that they get because of getting stuff that don't fit or don't work the way they thought it would, or don't look the way they think it would, is the reason why they don't make as much money as they could online. Even if we go back to physical shopping and shopping in stores, we now have this job to make sure that people shop in a way that is safe, shop in a way that they feel comfortable, and shop in a completely new manner. Shopping now is quite tense, right? You have to stay far away from people. You don't want to touch anything. It's something you want to get in and out and done quickly, and you don't want to go to stores frequently. So how do we adapt to all that? There have been some advances in a lot of contactless type of shopping, which I think will become more and more prevalent. Adopting these types of technologies will be critical to get consumers back into the shops. And even when they're in the shops, there's got to be more help to get people to the products that they want as quickly as possible. And because I think hanging out in stores is going to be a thing of the past. And then new types of retail experiences are going to be important. Reasons for people to step into shops are going to be, you have to sort of think of new reasons for people to come into shops. The interesting shop concept that I want to point out is in the bottom right-hand side of this slide is with the hippo sign there. It's a supermarket chain opened up by Alibaba in China called Hema or Hippo, and it is and when I was talking with them, I said, why are you opening up a supermarket? And they're trying something new, and it is working. What they're saying is that what we want to do is to be the most efficient and to be the most relevant store in the neighborhood that we serve. So every Hema store grids out like a, and I'm making the numbers up, let's say a 10 by 10 neighborhood. And so before they open the store, they go very deep into understanding who lives there, what are their lifestyles, what do they need. And then they stock their product specifically for this 10 by 10 grid that they operate in. So so in this shop, you can go in and buy stuff, or you can go online and buy stuff, and delivery of your grocery is within 30 minutes. So it's quite a flexible model, but with a very efficient footprint, because it only serves that. So it's hyper local, and at the same time it uses all this technology to understand who they serve, so that it really understands the consumer. And so it is not this shotgun approach or this mega global brand approach to, I'm going to sell everything to whether it's in Timbuktu or where have you, but it really caters to a very, very local community. And I think those are the types of models of retailing that we need to think about, because I think we need to be more and more efficient and in touch with consumers. The other question is interesting. So I run an applied research center. The other questions that I've been asked recently by a lot of retailers, and it's actually a project we're on right now, is how do we make customers feel safe in my stores anymore? If something has been tried on, will the next person feel comfortable trying it on again? I mean, if you think about that for ourselves as well, do we feel safe about touching things anymore? Or how do we know that the next guy didn't sneeze on all these shoes and clothes that I'm about to touch? So what are the ways to make sure that these types of products are okay to try on and touch, and to reassure customers? Because otherwise they're going to get everything online, right? But even there's a concern, which is, how do we know new clothes are safe? What if some worker sneezed on these clothes? And there have been a lot of tests on new products that say, oh yeah, you should see the count of viruses on new materials. So how do we sell things in a way that makes everybody comfortable with using that product? New types of user interfaces, we've said already, is critical. But then there are probably more and more new models of consuming as well, right? And so these ideas about whether it's sharing, leasing, or what have you, there's more and more service models. Because I think the other thing that has changed is the types of products that we shop for anymore. One thing for sure is that whereas certain demands have gone down, the demand characteristics of everything that we talk to in our discussions with brands is that here are the things that consumers care about coming out of this. Health and wellness is number one. Everybody wants to say wants to be healthy, and they want things to be casual and more comfortable. So congratulations of all the segments of the marketplace for you guys to be in. This is it. You know, everybody is in. Everybody's dressed like Ellen now, in t-shirts and working in the comfort of their home. And then finally, protective as well. Things that will protect us from viruses and germs. So whereas in the past, the focus have been on making things that don't stink when they sweat, which is actually a form of antibacterial material. Now, that functionality will be extended to how can, if I wear this, it gives me a degree of protection. It keeps me clean, it keeps me safe, it decontaminates me. Those are more and more the functionality that we will see more and more of. An example of this is face masks, right? Up till 6 months ago, this was something that you see on medical soap operas and TV and things like that. But now I bet you we all have various collections of face masks, and everybody is thinking about face masks. And we see more and more, certainly on the fashion end, you see this coming down walkways, and it is going to be a part of our wardrobe going forward. It's just what form it takes and who comes up with the ones that makes the most sense. You see these types of PPE types of materials appearing in uniforms for companies that are going to have high contact with consumers. So any of the service industries will have to think about, how am I going to have this as part of my wardrobe for my teams? There are more fashion interpretations of what this looks like, and how that you can add functionality and put a spin on things that are scary and medical in application, so that it becomes something that is desirous. It's something that we want to put on. So more and more, that will be part of our wardrobe, that will be part of our lifestyle, and that will be part of things that consumers want to buy. And so being more thoughtful about this is going to be interesting. So far, a lot of these don't have a lot of functionality. So how do we have these so that they also have functionality? And then for all of us on this call, how does it become something that is part of the needs and use case for athletes and for activities? Because there we need much more specialized types of protection, especially when we are active outdoors or in team activities. And so there's a lot of work and a lot of opportunities there. So all that to say that what we shop for, how we shop for, are going to be disrupted and changed, and there's an opportunity to figure out how we can serve that community better, and what are the specialized applications for all of us on this call to think about how we can what types of things we can do there. Very quickly to talk about so that's the sort of the personal level, but what about on the corporate level? How should we think about things? And one of the things from all this disruption that we've seen in the marketplace, that first of all, we've got to be in good shape, right? This is a great opportunity for all of us to look at the organizations that we're involved in, to deal with the weaknesses that we have. One of the things about the coronavirus is that a lot of people are succumbing to the virus, not because of the virus itself, but because of the pre-existing conditions that we were compromised to begin with. And so this just made it worse and accelerated our demise. The same is true of companies that have failed, that they failed not because of a couple months of disruption, but they failed because everything added up. I remember last year, or about 14 months ago, talking with the previous CEO of the Gap and talking about how where they have any concerns. And I remember the statement at that point, and I says, look at our balance sheet. We've got nothing to worry about. And if you look at Gap's balance sheet, let's say January 2020, it is a very healthy, as a $16 billion company with over $1 billion worth of cash sitting around. By May this year, they have burned through most of that. So they've just went to the marketplace and they have gotten another $2.25 billion. Because even though for a relatively healthy brand like the Gap, with sitting on $1 billion, you think that would get them through a rainy day. But even that is not enough in the age of the pandemic. If you don't have good top line, you're still going to get in trouble. You still have to, at the end of the day, it is getting the right product to the right consumer at the right price. And if you don't have that, there's not enough cushion for you to get through. And this is true of all these companies that have gone under. It was all these other things that they didn't do when they had a chance to deal with it that got them in trouble. So all that to say that one of the challenges is that now is the opportunity for us to confront with the brutal facts about what we're not good at, because we need to fix that before we succumb to that. And so a couple of things that are apparent and obvious to think about is that we need to have robust supply chains. And so this is something that's near and dear to my heart, is that when you are in trouble in a marketplace, what you really need is operational excellence. So a lot of understanding about what is going on in your supply chain, a lot of agility so that you can get things to marketplace a lot faster, and then a lot more focus on services, which is warehousing, distribution, and fulfillment. These are kind of boring and not exciting back-end types of operations, but these are the things that really, if we do all these things right, we'll be fine. Right? Two articles, and then I'll start wrapping up. Recently, there was an article from Harvard about, well, how do you start up dealing with this issue that we're dealing with today, and basically the article came up with these suggestions. So the big one is, you start by assuming nothing will be the same. Don't think that we'll be back to the good old days. So what do we have to do? So first is learn and adapt very quickly. It's called a novel coronavirus. It's called novel because it's new, and because nobody has seen anything like this before. So what we have to do, we have to learn quickly and adapt. We have to be comfortable with uncertainties. We have to live with either noise or a lot of unknowns, and we have to take some risks and be comfortable with that. Make mistakes, learn, pivot, move on. So that's the normal that we have to go through. That's kind of scary. It's a kind of a roller coaster. We'll make some mistakes, but that's okay because the situation is changing, but we have to learn very quickly. A lot of the early mistakes of the brands when this pandemic started in February, March, was that they fell back on an old rule book. They pulled out the old rule book about what to do in case of emergency. Well, this was bigger, faster, and more different than anything that they've seen before. So learn quickly and adapt. Sustain your ecosystem, or think like an ecosystem, is something that I've been talking about to brands for a long time, which is that the worst thing that could happen to you is that you survive, you open your shops in September, and your customers come back, but you have nothing to sell because all your factories went under. You can't just think about what is happening within the four walls of your company, because there's so many things that we have interdependencies on. We have to make sure that the trucking companies are healthy, that our manufacturers are healthy, their suppliers are healthy, because you want to make sure all that is available, because that sort of we live and die together. You don't want your ecosystem to collapse because there's not enough time for you to rebuild those relationships, because this started suddenly, this will probably end suddenly. So we need to make sure that we are in a situation where we can get back into business as quickly as possible. And the only way to do that is to keep everybody healthy. And the only way to do that under the circumstances is that we all share the pain. All of us have to go through some cuts and some uncomfortable situations, but that's how we keep the entire system going. Customers will change, so we have to change with them, and then communicate a lot, internally, externally. Make sure that we know, we tell everybody what's going on. McKinsey also just recently published a survey, and it sort of said all of those things, but it also added another point, which is people are going to shop with brands that have purpose, because you have to give them a reason to shop from here on out, and they want to buy brands that make them feel good, that gives them purpose and meaning. And this is where brands that have larger social missions are going to win. So that's where things like sustainability becomes a competitive advantage, because in the day and age that we are in right now, it's no longer the era of the madman on Madison Avenue that is going to be successful. It really is the how we share and what our reputation and what is top of mind to consumers that is going to drive consumers to do business with us. An example of this is something I saw in France recently. So this is a billboard that says, buy less Uniqlo, need less Uniqlo, shop less Uniqlo, and Uniqlo, as you know, is a big Japanese retail chain. This is not a boycott Uniqlo protest. This is a Uniqlo ad, and what they're appealing to is this change in lifestyle that we should be thinking about. That we need to adjust and adapt. And so rather than having some NGO talk to us about fast fashion and disposable apparel, they basically say, let me bring that message out. Let me talk about this, because then we're on the same side of that conversation. So how do you get in front of some of these conversations? And there are clever brands that are doing that right now. So sustainability and other values that are important to our consumers are going to be something that we need to thoughtfully embrace. Finally, and then I'll stop, the new world that we're coming out of. Right now, a lot of people, especially without job security, and a lot of companies who are going through this are looking at the world very tactically. They're just trying to survive. But the reality is that the world hasn't stopped because we have a pandemic, right? Coming behind it are going to be some economic implications, and coming behind it by that, by the way, are these environmental challenges that still confront us. The timetable hasn't slipped. So even though we spend a lot of time looking at the tactics, the new world order means that we need to also not lose sight of the big picture. And I think if anything else we learn from a pandemic, it's that we need to figure out how to live in harmony with this, right? An example of this is some of these numbers that I keep seeing, and in a paper I read recently about how great the environment, the air quality of certain highly polluted cities have become this year, and that how many lives that has been saved from a lot of respiratory problems because of the improvement in air quality. And the question that the researcher asked at the end, that we just swapped one form of death for another form of death. A lot of people are dying from a pandemic, but a lot less people are dying from air pollution. All that to say that there are shifts and changes, and some of these are self-inflicted, and some of these may result in us changing the way we think about things and the timeline of how we think about things. I don't have an answer there, by the way. I'm just raising that as a thought-provoking question. Many parts of the world, we're creating a huge economic environmental mess with disposable PPEs and things that new types of medical wastes that we are generating as a result of this pandemic. So tons and tons of single-use PPEs and masks are being thrown away every day, and unfortunately, a lot of these are being washed in the ocean. This is an environmental disaster waiting to happen. The concerns of the world is currently very much focused on getting through this pandemic, but then you can see that there are other things that are coming behind it that will dominate our thought, and then as a result of this, there will be some global changes. You know that, and I've alluded to that earlier. That we will be our lifestyles will change, and how do we adapt to some of these lifestyle changes? And then one final point, and that is that economically, we're going to be in a recession, a global recession. The question just is how big of a recession is this going to be? The interesting thing I want to point out about this recession is that just as in the US, the unemployment numbers are not spread out evenly across the states. So in the world, how much each country suffer is also going to have a degree of variation. So different countries will experience different, the depth of the recession is going to be different, right? 2 weeks ago, I was listening to a presentation by Tiffany's about their campaign, and they're bullish and quite positive, and they're talking about launching a lot of products in China, and then sort of follow up on India as well, and that they're actually now putting a lot of resources in marketing in China. And I was trying to figure out why they're doing that. And I looked up some charts, and I think I figured out why. And that is this chart here. That if you look to your lower right-hand corner, you'll see this tremendous dip that China went through. But then you'll also see the GDP for the second quarter grew by 3.2%. So it has not only come out of the negative GDP growth, but is actually growing at a pretty healthy rate. 3.2% GDP growth. Most European countries and the US would give their right arm for growth that is like that. So this is why companies like Tiffany's are there, right? Because they know that this is going to be the first one out of this recession, and the most opportunities to do business. But the challenge is that this is a little bit different of a marketplace. In fact, the world is now sort of moving at different rates. One way to look at this is the top 3 online retailers in China. The top one is Taobao, which is Alibaba. So it serves around 800-900 million users a month. And then the third one is JD.com, which serves about 200 million a month. Amazon, by the way, just by way of comparison, is about 190 million users a month. So all 3 are bigger. The interesting thing about this chart is that I bet you very few of us have ever heard of the middle one, Pinduoduo. Or if you can raise your hand, or maybe this is the first time you've come across this name, Pinduoduo. So this is like a 500 million user online retailer. Until about 18 months ago, the reason why you've not heard of this, because until about 18 months ago, this is sort of like the Groupon for agricultural products. These guys are 2, I think they were Google engineers, started this in Shanghai. And what they would do is they would go to a farmer and say, okay, I'm going to buy all the apples in your orchard. And then they would send out this say, okay, if we get 100 of you to each buy 10 pounds of apples, it's going to cost $20 a pound. But if only 50 of you sign up, it's going to be $40 a pound. And that's how, and they were going around doing all these purchases of basically agricultural products. So when the pandemic struck, they say, hey, we can do this for televisions and cell phones and everything else, right? And so they started selling everything else, and they have become quite successful at it. We don't even know these guys. We've never heard of them, but there they are, about twice as big as Amazon. All that to say, it's just different. The world is different. The marketplace of the world is different. And then more importantly, how this pandemic is behaving is that it started in China and moved to the EU. It is now in the US. You see signs of it going to Brazil, and it's probably going to hit Africa really bad. And you can see the cycle that is going through, which is why sort of China is coming out of this first, because they were in this earlier. And so the US will come out of this, and then the market will flow, the market will start opening up in the US, and the EU already, the European markets are already opening up. So all this, there's this rhythm to things that happen around the world. In a pandemic, we probably want to make friends around the world, is my point. And we want to have alliances, and we want to have access to as many marketplaces as we can. Because I think that's how we ensure that we continue to be viable, and that how we avoid these spikes and troughs that we may find ourselves into. Because I think this is how we catch the rhythm of what is going on, and especially in the situation that we find ourselves in. And so I think if we deal with this positively, and we deal with this in a aggressive manner, I think there are opportunities for lots of companies to come out of this and look really good. I'll stop here. I went over time, and I'll entertain questions. I hope some of this was useful.
That was excellent. Thank you so much, Edwin. That was fantastic. I've got a couple questions for you. The first is from Robert from our live stream. His question is, what would be a way to make the online virtual experience better for consumers as they increase their online presence? And do you have any examples or ideas for us?
I think the whole, that's a great question. It's an important one, because I think on the whole, think about the advantages of selling online. You know that you are in stock, right? So you won't miss a sale because of stock levels. You have a lot more selection, so the consumer doesn't have to substitute for the second choice, because it just doesn't have to be there. And you know that you can actually, what is missing is some of the things I articulated, is that we've not been good at digitizing some of the characteristics of what we're selling. So we should spend time figuring out how to digitize this, so that consumers can shop with more confidence, which is the right color, the right fit, and the right tactile experience of what this is. So that could be a use of new tools that are coming down the pike. There's a lot of much more immersive tools, so that you can have much more 3D experience of this tool. We're running a experimental retail shop in Hong Kong, and we put in our changing room a 3D body scanner. So the consumer goes in and he gets I think it takes about 5 seconds. I just did it last week. And so the two things we can use with that body scan, right? One, we are making completely customized shirts for apparel for that consumer. So we have a 3D knitting machine sitting in that shop, and we would 3D knit something to you based on the specs that we got from you. It's a machine to machine type of communication. We can also custom cut tailor some things for you if you want to. But we can also tell you here, and it's a multi-brand store, in these various brands, this is the size that fits you the best. So you're a medium at the Gap, and you're a small at J. Crew. You know, I mean, it saves you from having to try on everything, because the system has told you optimize that for you. So what we need to do is to make that into an app, so that you can have that same measurement from your cell phone, right? So it's something that if you can sit at home and be reassured that this shoe fits me, or this T-shirt will fit me, it's a win for everybody. So more immersive, more reassurances about fit. and then opportunity to do more, give more selection to the consumer. I mentioned briefly in my presentation about services like fulfillment, warehousing, and distribution. There is no reason why that can't be done much further upstream. Why do we have to ship things from factories to a distribution center, to a warehouse, to a store for the consumer to get access to it? Why can't we fulfill from the factory, or cut out all the other steps so that we can get things faster? So there are things like that we can do to make it more interesting. I hope that answers some of the questions.
Excellent, excellent. Our next question is Brian from the Zoom phone call. He's interested in, you talked about the new world and the normal order, and more specifically about survival of the fittest. In your opinion, Edwin, does that entail bigger companies that have stronger presence on the market will begin swallowing up the smaller ones? And the example that he uses is leading to what we see happening to the automobile industry of the big threes in the past couple of decades.
Right. I think in my observation, and this is only my observation, is that who are going to be the people that will fare well in this environment. I think so. In the short term, it will be people who have great cash management capabilities, that they sit on cash and they have an opportunity to buy things at a discount. They're able to expand while people contract, and they're able to retain their people because they have the wherewithal to do that. In the long term, I think the types of organizations that will fare the best, one characteristics may be big, right? Because you can leverage scale. But even if you're big but you're overweight and you are unhealthy, that still doesn't help you that much. You have to be big, but at the same time you're able to take advantage of that scale that you're able to create. So certainly scale is going to be a natural advantage. But I think on the other extreme, the fittest may be those that are the most in the narrowest of the niches, those that are the most nimble in what they do. So if you sell something that is really unique, that has a great brand reputation, then or something that is just hard for other people to get into quickly, then yeah, you'll be fine. I was just talking to this startup in New York, and they sell this hand sanitizer that they put in different types of oils and moisturizers in, so it doesn't dry you out and it doesn't smell like alcohol when you have this stuff, but it feels like a lotion. They have sold out their entire stock till December. They just can't fulfill fast enough because that's a product that is in demand. The other company I talked to was this I think it's called Lark. It's a bottle with a UV. It uses UVC to sterilize the water that you drink, and so all of a sudden people want to make sure that they're drinking clean water. So those are companies that really are in great little niches that and they have built up a reputation for the products that they sell, and they'll be fine because they have figured out how to create this moat to defend the little piece of real estate that they have. So the extremes, I think, will be where we think we should be, and I go back to this idea of being healthy, right? Don't just rely on I've got this one thing, in like the story that I learned from the Gap is that it's like, oh, it's okay, my dad's rich, so I have lots of money. Well, if your business fundamentally is not healthy, or your brand really needs to be fixed, that can only get you so far. You need to really still deal with the nuts and bolts. best to have take this opportunity to really get in shape and really critically look at everything, so that we don't have something that becomes a fatal flaw in our organization.
Excellent. And looks like I get the last question. So hopefully this is not too meaty. I noticed with your forecasts, you were showing 2020 in each case down and 2021 in each case up. Is this part of the paradox of planning for the worst but expecting the best?
Yeah. 2021 will be better, not because we're optimistic. I think 2021 is better because 2020 is so bad. It's the year-on-year comparison, right? So we can't get worse than 2020. It will be a recession. It will just be horrible. So also, I think every government in the world is now printing money to make sure that there is liquidity in the marketplace, and those will begin to hit the marketplace. And so I think all of that is that 2021 will be better because, relatively speaking, 2020 is so bad, and also because there are these artificial stimulus that is happening, regardless of what the true market condition or what market sentiment will be like. What we have to be careful is that it's not evenly distributed. If you're in the hospitality business, it's still going to be a lousy year. If you're an airline business, yeah, I think passengers are going to go down. You can be pretty sure of that. So those industries will be in trouble. But certain Netflix will be fine, right? It'll just be a new way for movies to be released and for us to entertain ourselves. Grocery stores, packaged foods, they'll be fine. If you sell home gym equipment, it's going to be a banner year, right? We're not going to work in a sweaty gym anymore. We're all working in our basement. So it's all that to say that we still have to pick our segments, and because that's an aggregate number. It's a matter of where we're going to find the winners and how do we prepare ourselves so that we will take advantage of that swing in the marketplace when it comes around.
Excellent. Edwin, on behalf of the University of Oregon and the Sports Product Management Program, we thank you so much for your insightful presentation today. It's so good to see you, and I do hope that the next time I see you, I can come visit you in Hong Kong. Thank you for your email address. I know that we probably have some additional questions, and I'll follow up with just sending some of those to you.
Sure.
If you don't mind, yeah, or having the students send them to you as they engage. So you've been so generous with your time, and thank you so much. Stay safe, and I know we can say that to each other because I'm in Portland and you're in Hong Kong. So
stay safe, everybody. Thank you. It was a pleasure hanging out with you.
Thank you so much, Edwin. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And thank you, everybody, for being with us today.